everybody, I'm Susan Wilkie with the Ohio Ethics Commission. I've been doing training and communication and all kinds of public outreach for 18 years now with the Ohio Ethics Commission, but I've been with the state of Ohio for a lot longer than that. So welcome to public service, welcome to your elected position. I'm really honored to be the one to introduce the Ohio Ethics Law to you today. So if you're not real familiar with the Ohio ethics law, don't worry, I'm here for you. This will be a very brief summation of kind of the history and what's in the Ohio ethics law and why it's so important. Just as a little bit of a preamble though, I will tell you this, of everything I say today, please understand there is so much more available on the Ohio Ethics Commission's website. I'll give you that website address at the very end of this presentation, but every little tidbit that I hopefully share with you today, there is so much more that you can achieve by learning more, calling us, going to our website, all kinds of things out there that will be really, really helpful. So you may wonder, why is this ethics law so important? Well, first off, let me just say this. This is a criminal statute in the state of Ohio. This is not a civil law. This is not a best professional practice. It's not a policy. It is, in fact, a criminal law. So in fairness, it does behoove all of us to understand the law well so that we can better comply with it. I know one of my goals is to get through my life and my career without being convicted of a crime. I'm guessing that's true for you in your public office as well. So I grant you that's a really important factor. Comply with the law so none of us actually have legal trouble. But to me, the foundational why of this ethics law is far more profound. For 1 minute, I give you permission to forget the fact that you're an elected official. Instead, just put on for a moment your hat as a citizen, as a fellow taxpayer. This law matters because you have the right to expect certain things from your governments, all of your governments, your state government, the county that you live in, the city, the township, the village that you call home, your police, your fire, your public library, the school district where your kids attend or where you pay taxes, and every government in between. You have the right as a citizen and as a taxpayer to expect that those governments operate in a way that protect you, that represents you. You should never have to wonder where you're living, gee, did our elected officials vote that way because it's what was right for the public or because it financially benefited themselves? This statute was designed many years ago to make sure that people who have the honor of serving in the public sector serve in a way that represents the public well. How does this all come together? How can I get more information? Well, I mentioned already there's an awful lot on our website that can give you more information. We have advisory opinions on our website dating back to 1974. But in addition to that, we have fact sheets. I have e-courses, webinars, information on our investigative processes. You see on this screen our primary statutory responsibilities. If any of you with me today are in fact financial disclosure filers, I'm not going to cover that in great detail on this brief class, but please understand again, there's far more on our website that you can get information, get your questions answered, and even get help for how to fill out that annual form. But even if you're not a financial disclosure filer, look at the other statutory responsibilities that you see on this screen. Did you know that as someone in public service, hired, elected, appointed, full-time, part-time, management, non-management, union, non-union, doesn't matter to us. Just by virtue of the fact that you are in public service, you can receive free legal guidance about the Ohio ethics law. Did you know that? We have 3 marvelous advisory attorneys whose entire responsibility under this statute is to give you free legal guidance of how to do things correctly. So when that moment comes in your years of public service, be they long or short years, you have that moment of, I want to do the right thing under the ethics law. I'm just not sure what that is in this case, in this circumstance. That's what those advisory attorneys are there for. They can help guide you. Now, I understand that very often people think to themselves, if I ask the state of Ohio a question, they're going to get back to me, in a year? It's not the case with the Ohio Ethics Commission. Don't forget, I mentioned that we have advisory opinions dating back to 1974 on our website. Very often, people call us asking for advice that we're able to say, hey, we've already addressed that situation. We've answered a very similar question. Let me email that to you. And sometimes you have the answer in your email inbox before we even hang up the phone together. If you are asking a question that's a bit more unprecedented that we've not already opined on, as attorneys say, then we will ask you to put that question in writing and we'll respond generally within 5 to 7 business days. Our goal here, honestly, is not to get people in trouble. While our investigators, another bullet point you see on the screen, our investigators are wonderful, wicked smart, they do their jobs well. Our goal as the Ethics Commission is to not have to investigate most people in public service. Our goal would be to answer their questions, get them the advice that they need. Now, I am, of course, the manager of that education communications. I'm kind of in between the two, right? I don't give the legal advice and I don't do the investigations. My job is to take that legal advice, that sort of very scholarly, erudite sounding language, and turn it into language, to trainings that are relatable, that make sense, that are germane and applicable on a day-to-day basis, so you never have to wonder, gee, is what I did okay, and meeting up with the investigators. My goal is to take that advice, make it something very applicable that you can say, I know that what I'm doing, I'm moving forward with the Ethics Commission's guidance in mind. So we've covered the why and the who of the ethics law and the Ohio Ethics Commission. This is the actual what of the ethics law. Now, I will tell you, what you see on the screen is not the totality of the Ohio ethics law. There are actually more parts of the statute that we cover in broader, in more lengthy trainings. This is sort of the, if you will, the cliff notes of the major provisions of the Ohio ethics law. So what I'd like to do in this class is give you just a little bit of information on these major provisions of the statute, and just a little bit more information how you can get even more when you are potentially confronted with one of these areas of the Ohio ethics law. So let's start with that first one, conflicts of interest. I will tell you, I sometimes believe this part of the Ohio ethics law gets a bad rap. And you know why? It's because I think that phrase, conflict of interest, is somewhat ominous sounding, isn't it? That somehow there's this assumption that if someone in public service has even confronted a conflict of interest, that somehow the law has been broken. And the truth is, that's simply not accurate. Conflicts of interest are somewhat common in public service. They're simply indicative of the fact that people in public service are real life people. None of us cease to exist at the end of our workday or at the end of that board meeting or that commission meeting. When that investigation is complete, everybody in law enforcement magically disappears. Not at all. Everybody in government, we all have our own outside lives, our own financial interests. We have family members, perhaps right there in your community where you serve. You have outside business interests. Perhaps in addition to your elected spot, that you also own a business. You work here. You do consulting. All of these things and issues are the very things that enrich our lives and give us joy. They're also the issues that can bring about a conflict of interest in public service. And the truth is, that's not automatically a problem under the ethics law. So for example, let's pretend for one moment that I'm a county employee and my job is to inspect restaurants in the county where we work and live. I'm glad a job like that exists. When I go out for my ice cream or my cup of coffee, I want to know that somebody in the county has inspected that restaurant to make sure it's abiding with all food rules. Makes sense to me. But now let's pretend I'm that county employee who happens to have a sister who has opened a restaurant in that county. Is that a conflict for me? Sure. But is it any reason for me to panic? Not at all. The ethics law doesn't say it is illegal for us in public service to have the conflict of interest. What's illegal is to act on that conflict of interest. So what I'm going to ask you in your years of public service, when you are confronted with a case, a matter, a proceeding, an issue that would have a definite and direct impact either on yourself, a member of your family, someone that you have a business relationship with in your private outside life, I'm going to ask you to stop. Right? Get more information, call us, reach out to your county prosecutor, your city law director, whoever it is that represents your public entity, and ask questions. I don't want you to get the feeling that you have to recuse on everything that could even remotely touch the life of someone that you care about. It's when someone would be directly impacted. So for example, we would not say to you, oh, wait, you're going to vote on a budget tonight that includes money to repair roads? Well, since you drive on the roads in your community, you must recuse. That's absurd. Nobody would interpret the ethics law that broadly. But contrast that with something along these lines. We are going to vote on a budget tonight that directly gives money to business owners, 3 business owners in the downtown of our community, one of which is my brother, let's say, to have infrastructure improvements on the outside of their buildings. Do you see the difference there? Something that impacts everybody uniformly in that community versus singling out one of these bullet points you see on the screen, either myself, my family, my business associates. Again, I don't want you to panic if you have the conflict. What I want you to do, though, is stop. reach out to us, get more information, look at our website before you move forward. It is always better to be in the situation where you're reaching out to the Ethics Commission or your legal counsel for your public entity and say, hey, would this be a violation? Versus reaching out to one of us saying, hey, was that a violation? Because one, you're in a position of getting advice before you act, and the other one, now we're sadly in the investigative mode. Stay in that advisory lane with us. Reach out to us if you might have a conflict, and we would be honored to help make sure you're staying on the straight and narrow. This next area of the ethics law is one that we do receive lots of questions about. Now, I grant you, there are some folks in public service that this is not an area of the law that they lose a ton of sleep on. I happen to be in that category. I work for the Ohio Ethics Commission. People send remarkably few presents to the Ohio Ethics Commission. So I understand the thinking of people in public service who say, I don't think this is going to come up for me a lot in my life. I will tell you though, as someone who is newly elected to your public office, this is an area of the law you're going to want to be aware of, that you're going to want to comply with, because it will come up. Now, that does not mean that we assume people are trying to influence you or bribe you or that bad things are happening. It just means the opportunity is going to arise, that there will be people in public service that simply have this arise of, this vendor is reaching out to me, this person who wants something from my city or my township or my county where I'm elected. They're seeking zoning issues. They want to do business with us. They want to create a business there. These are all normal things that we're going to ask you to watch out in that conflict world we just talked about. But here's where this gift issue will arise. What if a vendor to your public entity is saying, I have an extra ticket to this game? What if someone seeking a variance to a zoning issue is going to in fact say, hey, I have an extra ticket to this golf outing? That someone who's trying to get a contract with your agency, with your public entity, will one day say, hey, did you receive the box of cookies I sent at the holidays? The primary words to help determine if you're allowed to accept these are on this screen. Is this gift substantial, and is it from an improper source? I am going to ask you to check out fact sheets and advisory opinions on our website to give you more information, because in fairness, not every gift is illegal. There are lots of little nominal, de minimis, minor, tchotchke promotional little items, you know what I'm talking about, the pens and the pencils and the bowl cap and the tin of cookies, that the Ethics Commission has over and over stated are not substantial and illegal. But when you get beyond those things, here's what we're going to say, stop, get more information. You and I in public service, regardless of whether we're elected or not, are not allowed to accept substantial things from our vendors, potential vendors, people that our public entity regulates, or people that have a vested or specific interest in matters pending before our public entities. Whether or not it influences us isn't germane to this part of the ethics law. Certainly, we don't want anybody in public service to accept a bribe, but even beyond the bribe, this statute, 102.03 E and F, says people in public service, we're not even allowed to ask or accept those kind of things. So I am going to ask you, as you begin your public service, to go to our website, get more information about gifts, thoroughly educate yourself, then call us with questions before you accept anything that you're concerned, does this fall into that substantial category? Again, in a short class like that, can't get into too much detail, but I am going to direct you to our information online for more so that you know what questions you even want to ask us. So public contracts, this also makes people nervous sometimes until they realize what a public contract is. Do you know what it is? It's really any time your public entity spends money. That's really all it is. Actually, the statute actually would say money spent by or for the use of a public entity. This is really normal. Could it be a $10 million contract that the county is going to build a brand new building? Sure, it could be that. It could also be someone in the office had their mouse break on their computer and your agency's going to replace it. It can be that simple as well. It's simply public money being spent. It happens every day, legally, completely expected. But you sort of have to expect when we're talking about public money that there will be some restrictions. Some of the major restrictions under this area of the ethics law include never trying to get a public contract for yourself, for a member of your family or someone that you have a business relationship with in your private life. So for example, let's pretend that the township, let's say, that you serve, the school board that you serve, you are going to approve expenditure of money to replace the roof on a public building. Sounds like a legitimate public expense to me. You don't want people getting dripped on in the middle of a meeting or a school day, for example, right? So your brother owns a roofing company. This would be where recusal comes into play, that I cannot help myself, a member of my family, or someone in my private business life obtain that public contract. They can go after it, but I would have to be able to recuse myself. The next thing is the prohibition in the vast majority of cases of you selling goods and services to your own agency. So for example, what if you own the roofing company, not your brother? Well, in general, the law would say you and I cannot sell goods and services to our own public entity, even if we were to recuse ourselves. The other one I would note here is nepotism. If someone in your family is looking for a public job, that's marvelous. You can wish them well, but that's all you can do. You cannot assist them in getting that public job, recommending, advocating, lobbying, hand-delivering resumes, checking up on it, character references, any of those things. Because again, a public job is a public expenditure of public money. These are some of our most common violations under the public contract area of the ethics law. And again, I am going to refer you to our website because I have fact sheets and advisory opinions on all of these things in far more detail than we can get to in a really brief class like this. Okay, and I have to give the last word to the great bard of England, do I not? We don't have to part in any real sense of the word because we are still here for you. This very brief class, I hope, has been helpful, and here on this slide is where you can see how to reach us. That phone number can connect you with an advisory attorney, with an investigator. If you want to have more training opportunities, you can reach me. As I've mentioned throughout this course, our website is chock full of more information. Those advisory opinions that I referenced, e-courses, webinars, fact sheets, worksheets. Our goal has been to make that website a place where you can fully equip yourself to fully comply with the Ohio ethics law. If you can't find what you're looking for, again, reach out to us, send us an email, give us a call. Please believe me when I say we would thoroughly enjoy working with you in an educational and advisory capacity. The investigative part is a little less fun for everybody involved. So stay on this side of the law with us. Reach out to us. Let us know how we can be of any assistance. So with that, on behalf of the Ethics Commission and all of us who are so honored to call Ohio home, thank you for your desire to serve the public. Elected office holding can be challenging. It can sometimes feel thankless, but when done well, is an extremely honorable way to serve your community. The Ethics Commission would be honored to partner with you in that and all those endeavors that you undertake in your years of public service. Thank you so much, and make it a great day.